Yeah. Shine. It's what it is. Holy hip hop. Hebrew, stand up. It's what it is. Yeshua is the savior, here to save ya. And Yod Hey Vav Hey, that is the creator. Hashatan, time is up for deceiving. His people opening up to really receive him. Yeshua is the savior, here to save ya. And Yod Hey Vav Hey, that is the creator. Hashatan, time is up for deceiving. His people opening up to really receive him. Tossed to and fro, had nowhere to go. One knew for sure, said I know where to go. Heart was so heavy and my head hung low. Laden with burden, my spirit man was broke. Took me by the hand to the ancient path. This route I was on, I never taken that. And I was taken aback because it was the Basora that led me on my spiritual journey to Torah. Now on my road to recovery, so many hidden things now I'm discovering. My ancestors are the chosen people. B'nai Yisrael, we are the Hebrews. Taking up my state and I'm killing the flesh. Letting God into truth, Baruch HaKadosh. Now with all my nefesh, I serve him alone. The only one on the throne, and with his blood I'm atoned. Yeshua is the savior, here to save ya. And Yod Hey Vav Hey, that is the creator. Hashatan, time is up for deceiving. His people opening up to really receive him. Yeshua is the savior, here to save ya. And Yod Hey Vav Hey, that is the creator. Hashatan, time is up for deceiving. His people opening up to really receive him. He named my Tov Umanayim Shevet Ahim Gam Yahad Yahweh Eloheinu Echad Ve'yahavte Yahweh Eloheka Be'kol Avavcha U'v'kol Hasheka. Cause he'll accept ya if you accept the Habari and know Yehuda holds the scepter. Ko Amar Heshaliach Shemon Kefa Panim Ya Elohim is no respecter. Respect the fact that faith without works is dead. And the daily bread is how the word is fed. Torah, the foundation where my feet is planted. Be obedient to all the statutes and commandments. Zakor et Yom HaShabbat L'Kadesho Be'moadei Yahweh Asher Tikreyu. Walk the faith of Abraham to the day that I sleep. In the New Jerusalem is where we meet. Yeshua is the savior, here to save ya. And Yod Hey Vav Hey, that is the creator. Hashatan, time is up for deceiving. His people opening up to really receive him. Yeshua is the savior, here to save ya. And Yod Hey Vav Hey, that is the creator. Hashatan, time is up for deceiving. His people opening up to really receive him. Yeshua is the savior, here to save ya. And Yod Hey Vav Hey, that is the creator. Hashatan, time is up for deceiving. His people opening up to really receive him. Yeshua is the savior, here to save ya. And Yod Hey Vav Hey, that is the creator. Hashatan, time is up for deceiving. His people opening up to really receive him.
Shalom, uvracha, mishpacha, wahabarim. I am Sister Ashanti, also known on Facebook as Ashanti Doc and on my YouTube channel as 916 Shan. I am a Messianic Jew who follows Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus Christ, also known as Jesus Christ, or as I call him, Yeshua HaKohen HaMalek, the priestly king, imitating him as he taught and lived the Torah, law in the first 5 books of the Bible, administered to Moshe or Moses by Yahweh, Yod Hey Wah Hey, the Lord God of Israel. I believe Yod Hey Wah Hey, Yahweh, is reviving and restoring a remnant of scattered Israel as dry bones in a valley as part of the promised seed of faith according to the Holy Scriptures. I believe this revival and restoration is about salvation through Yeshua to bring together all humanity who are believers as one through Yeshua to fulfill Scripture before his return to reign on earth and before the final judgment. It is my sincere prayer that by the ministry of the Scriptures and the Holy Spirit of Yod Hey Wah Hey that allows me to bring forth information to you today, that I humbly present myself as a servant of Yod Hey Wah Hey to everyone in need of salvation through the gospel of Yeshua. On this platform, I will be teaching or discussing Scripture, history that corroborates it, and other relevant issues. I pray you are edified, receive insight, inspiration, encouragement, and unwavering faith by the word of Yod He Wah in the name of Yeshua. Since I'm also streaming not only on my channel, but also streaming on Debate Talk for You, I have to give this brand disclaimer for Debate Talk for You. The views and opinions expressed by individuals on this platform, the callers, plus the invited guests are their own. So when this is on Debate Talk for You, some people call in. However, this is a YouTube. This is not necessarily a place where you can call in. I don't have it set up that way. However, in the future, I may have it to where people can actually call in and you can hear them. The information you hear does not reflect the overall views of all parties associated with this brand. We encourage everyone to research all things heard live and via archive for edification purposes. Discretion is advised. Shalom, Mr. Blacktastic. Shalom, Brother Marcus Jones. I also want to say that the information I'm going to be presenting, I'm going to use the Fair Use Act. So the Fair Use Act is Section 107 under Copyright Act of 1976, which allows me to use copyrights that are already out here for my news reporting, for my teaching, for scholarship, education, and research. Right. So that's the Fair Use Act. All right. So let's get it in. Shalom. Shalom, shalom. Red letter, please. Oh, red letter PLZ. Shalom. Shalom. Shalom uvracha. Shalom uvracha. L'chol. Shalom, Keisha. Shalom. So, I gave the introduction. I thank you, Mr. Blacktastic, for allowing me to use some of the introduction that you actually originated. So I appreciate that. And that's the disclaimer I'm going to use from now on. So without further ado, let's get into this. So who and what is a Jew? Who and what is a Jew? So I am coming to you for hopefully a short period of time. And this was on my heart to do because of the latest in the news about how the New Jersey Nets are doing our brother Kyrie. Kyrie shared either the link or the picture to our brother Ron Dalton Jr. documentary called Hebrews to Negroes. So this film, that documentary has been out for about 4 years now, and it was not a big issue until a celebrity with some influence shares it on their social media. So there were some claims that the documentary had anti-Semitic tropes and that it had a lot of anti-Semitism in it. And it sparks this conversation about the Jewish community and what they deem anti-Semitic or what they see as anti-Semitism, right? So I wanted to come on and give some understanding to every last one of us in the community. I will say I am a part of the Jewish community. I have called myself Israel. I'm still Israel. And I'm still Israel because that's what I strive to do every day. The Father allows me to wake up breathing. It is an action word. It is person whom strives, wrestles, prevails, reigns, and rules with Elohim. The Elohim I serve is Yod He Wahe, and you will hear me pronounce that name as Yahweh. Sometimes you'll hear me or some of my guests say Hashem, which means the name. And you'll also sometimes maybe hear me refer to Yod He Wahe as Adonai, my Lord, my Master. Right? You'll hear me say Yeshua, who the world knows most assuredly as Jesus Christ. And sometimes I'll say Yeshua HaMashiach. Sometimes I'll say Yeshua HaKohen HaMelech, which means the priestly king. Yeshua, the priestly king. So I wanted to come on as a person who is a part of the Jewish community. And why am I using that word? Why am I saying I'm a part of the Jewish community? Well, because I'm a Jew. Wait a minute, Shanti. Wait a minute. Oh no. Are you saying you are a Jew, Shanti? Yes, I am a Messianic Jew. And I'm going to clarify. And this video is going to clarify the ambiguous definitions of what it means to be a Jew. Who is a Jew? I used to believe, because I was taught early on, that the word Jew was a derogatory term, like calling someone the N word. That's what I was taught early on in this walk when I came in 2013. I was taught, and I believed, as I was taught, that Jew meant a derogatory term, sort of like calling someone the N word. However, as years went by and I got educated, the Spirit started to work through me, and I sought the Most High in prayer and supplication. I start to understand my behavior constitutes that of a Jew, and that the word is not a derogatory term. The word has went some etymological changes over a period of a couple thousand years. So that's what we're going to talk about. I am going to bring on my brother here. Y'all know him, but let me bring him on, and we gonna get into some things um, from a source, and that's why I had to share the Fair Use Act. So this is what I'm sharing is going to be from Fair Use. So let me bring on my brother. Go ahead, BA. Talk to the people.
No, just top of the morning to all. I'm just here to build. I'm here to also learn a lot of the information that Sis is sharing. This information that we have both looked at. Um, so I'm just open to hearing and sharing. And when it comes to certain terms, we need to most definitely examine it from a historical and social perspective. We're in the age of information, and there's a lot of information here that Sis and myself and various others in the community, which are very few, um, have looked into, and this information has been around for a very long time. And we thank the Most High for the internet, so we can have access to these sources and critically examine them, analyze them, and look into them and see what these sources have to say. So with that, I'm gonna just fall back and I'll chime in as Sis continues as she shares her information rather. For those who don't know me, I am B.A. Abad. A much love to all believers in the Most High through Yeshua the Christ, whether you be Christian or Hebrew or whatever you personify to call yourself. Much love and shalom.
Thank you for being with us here, BA. You know, definitely we've presented this information before because this information has been sitting out here for a long time. Like you said, thank the Most High for the internet streets. All right, so we put some things out in the atmosphere of the internet streets. You know what I mean? So if y'all see me looking to the left, I have another screen on the left here, and I have a monitor in front of me. So I'm going to be sharing some things. So let's do this. All right. Oh, okay, hold on. You got to learn how to work this technology stuff. Yeah. Huh. Okay. So I tried this before, and I checked this stuff before. Okay. There we go. There we go. All right. So we are going to be looking at information from this book here, The Beginnings of Jewishness, Boundaries, Varieties, Uncertainties by Shay J.D. Cohen. Right? Shay J.D. Cohen. I want to show you guys real quick what this person looks like here. Y'all know me. I like controversial stuff like this. This is Shay J.D. Cohen. This is the person who wrote the book that we're going to be looking at. And I'm not going to be presenting everything from the book, just what I can in the next couple of hours. So I encourage anyone who has the ability to get the book either on Kindle or physical copy, go ahead and get it. But this is Shay J.D. Cohen. As you can see, he's a professor and a rabbi, right? So it says he's a part of the Committee on the Study of Religion. Shay J.D. Cohen is the Littauer Professor of Hebrew Literature and Philosophy in the Department of Near Eastern Languages, Harvard University. Right? So some of his books are here. These are some of his books. You see, this is the main one we're going to be looking at. So he has a book called From the Maccabees to the Mishnah, Why Aren't Jewish Women Circumcised? Whoa.
And you know, the from the Maccabees to the Mishnah, that's one I had personally looked into myself. So that is definitely a good source, a very good. He uses a lot of historical references, and for those who are like really searching, that Maccabees to the Mishnah is very good. It points out things that's commonly taught in the community, and you'll be amazed at where some of these beliefs come from. And I'll just leave it at
that. Right? So this is what we're going to be looking at. We're going to be looking at his work here. So, The Beginnings of Jewishness. Right? And I'm going to try to not be so boring, you know. Maybe I can rap a little bit like Mr. Black Tass be doing. But I want to get to the meat and potatoes because the Jewish community has not, in my opinion, done a good job of educating people on who is a Jew and what is a Jew. You know, sometimes we hear this term secular Jews, then we hear term religious Jews. We know we need to know the distinctions between each and every last one of those, right? Right. So let me see here. So the phrase among us Jews reveals a strong public identification with the Jewish community, which defined itself as an us. So wherever there's an us, there's also a them. So, you know, that's why I say Gentile. Gentile in the biblical text, it's someone who is of the nations, and in the first century CE, it also came to mean someone who's not us. And someone who's not us is someone who does not revere, worship, or obey the Elohim or deity or power or mighty one of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Right? So two questions. It says two questions that form the heart of this book. It says what makes us us and them them. Right? That is, what is it that makes a Jew and a non-Jew a non-Jew? The answer to this question will lead directly to the second question. Can one of them become one of us? Can a Gentile become a Jew? Now, before I continue, I want to say this with the controversy that's been going on the past couple of weeks with Kanye, Kyrie, before that, Nick Cannon. A lot of people say, hey, those people, and when they say those people, they're referring majority to Ashkenazi Jews. Some people will say they are fake. Some people will say they are fake because they are converts. Oh, those are just converts. Oh, those are just fake people. That is anti-Semitic. You can't tell someone what they're not. You don't need to elevate who you are or validate who you are by telling someone or someone else what they are not. When
say that one more time.
You don't need to elevate or validate who you are by telling someone else what they are not.
I'm hoping that we all understand what that means. Keep going, sis. That was just prevalent. I just thought it was very important to repeat that.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. And what I need to say is this as well. When someone converts, when a person of the nations converts, that means they, as a human being, are coming back to right standing with their creator. Their creator is loving. Their creator has made them in the image of their creator. When a person converts, that means they're giving up their idolatry. They're giving up worshiping another deity, and they're coming back to their deity that created them. Why would we call someone like that fake? That's very disheartening for people to. That's very disheartening for me to see people say that and to hear people say that. Because we don't know the intention of their heart. When Paul and the apostles went to the nations, the Romans, the Ephesians, the Galatians, the Colossians, the Thessalonians, when those nations withdrew from their deity and their idolatrous practices and came over to be obedient to Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh and to take on his ways and to take on the ways of Abraham, did Paul and the apostles call those people fake? Those are our brothers. Was not Ham, Shem, and Japheth from Noah and his wife? Are not Ham, Shem, and Japheth brothers? If they are brothers, if they are relatives, why don't we have love for them to come back as human beings to their creator, to the one whom created them? Why would we call them fake? We're all trying to get back to Eden. We're all trying to get to paradise. We're all trying to get to heaven on earth. Right? Shalom, Brother Arrow Spike. Shalom. I just don't understand why we want to call them fake. Some people say, oh, they hijacked our identity. I don't believe they hijacked it. I believe they openly accepted it when another people rejected it. That's not stealing. That's not hijacking. Now, for the people who rejected it and now accept it, cool. You are a Jew. Chosen. Yes. Everyone is chosen to do what? When you return to the ways of the Most High Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, you're chosen to do what? You're chosen to spread the good news of the gospel to every last human being on earth and say, hey, you have an opportunity to get back into your Father's house, into your Father's kingdom through the belief in Yeshua's shed blood. That's what chosen really means. Chosen to do a task. Chosen to do a mandate. Get everyone back to its creator.
Can I interject real quick?
Absolutely, BA.
We always hear this word, they're still we're chosen. Chosen to do what? And let me just give me a quick moment, real quick, sis. You have this nation of people who are oppressed, who came out of Egypt, redeemed, changed, accepted the covenant, and supposed to forsake their old ways. Then that first generation dies. The second generation goes into the land. What is the purpose? What is the actions, the purpose? What does it mean to be an Israelite? What does it mean to be a light to the nations? Israel was set in this land region amongst all these different nations just to look at them and to look down upon them? Or with the Most High's support and his backup, Israel was supposed to be a light to the nations to bring humanity back. Israel was not supposed to be a light to themselves, just them only. No, they were set in the land to be an example, to bring others into the fold. I just want to say that. So when we say chosen to do what? We can say chosen all day. You can be chosen to do this. You can be chosen to look this way and that way. But what are the actions and the conduct and the behavior you're supposed to be putting out there? Just wanted to put that up real quick.
No problem. And I know we're going to be interjecting a lot. We're going to be adding a commentary. We probably won't get to everything that I want to cover in this book, but I do want to cover a majority. But I do want to address sometimes the comments in the comment section. Looking at people's actions. You're supposed to introspect with yourself first. Because a lot of people out here talk about they act more godly than the next person up here cussing up a storm, talking down to their brother, talking down to their sister, ad hominems, personal attacks. Work out your own salvation with fear and trembling first before you judge somebody else's character. Look at your own behavior first. Look at your own mannerisms first. Try to get yourself into the kingdom first. Worry about your conduct first. A lot of people say, oh, they works is not of the Most High. What about you first? Have you looked at yourself first? You don't know if you're going to make it yet. We so worried about what somebody else is doing or what somebody else is not doing. Are we looking at their works? Look at your works first. Sorry. Shalom to Hashem Sadek, but shalom to Phobos. Shalom Kariite, Israelites for truth. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Yeah, we can tell the truth of who we are. That's why I say I'm a Jew. I don't have to tell someone they're not to solidify who I am. No, my effort every day is going to show who I am.
And let me just add, so what makes a difference if the converts do tell who we are as a people? I thought only the Most High was going to make you relevant. Is not Israel scattered and under the curses? He said, I will restore you.
Come on, BA.
A lot of people say, we are under curses. Okay, well, you will be a hidden people. So no matter how many times the convert says who you are or not, you're not relevant till the Most High says you're relevant, because you're the one he made the covenant with.
Come on.
You didn't make the covenant with the heathen or the Gentile, who you like to call them. You were supposed to convert them over.
Come on.
So who are you really mad at? It shouldn't be the Jew or the one who calls himself a Jew or those who are converts. You want to get mad at somebody, get mad at the Creator himself, because you made the covenant with him and you agreed to his stipulations. But now you feel like you have to be made relevant because a convert ain't telling the truth. Maybe if you stop thinking of self and realize they may have been lied to as well,
Come on.
just like we've been lied to. But
Come
see,
on.
but when you think of yourself, it doesn't matter. I'm done. Go ahead.
Jeremiah 16 say, hey, truly, truly, our people are going to wake up and they're going to say our fathers inherited lies. And when we go back to Leviticus 19, it says, if a stranger sojourns with you in your land, you shall not vex him. That's clear as day. The stranger, pretty much the convert who dwells with you, they shall be like one born among you. You shall love him as you love yourself, because you were strangers in the land of Egypt. We talking about what somebody else don't do. Have we checked ourselves to see if we actually follow what we say we do? What we claim? All right. So we're going to get to who and what is a Jew. There was no single or simple definition of Jew in antiquity. The Greek word Judeos, usually translated as Jew, often is better translated as Judean. Like I said, we're going to see the etymology of this word, right? All right, so who was a Jew? Talk a little bit about Herod. So Gentiles and Jews have crossed the boundary, or at least raised serious questions about the boundary and its efficacy in keeping Jews in and Gentiles out, right? So the Jewishness of all these boundary crossers had to be determined by various jurisdictions and groups. The organized Jewish community, the municipal or provincial governments, and the imperial government each had an interest in determining whether a given individual was a Jew, right? So it's about your different sect. So remember, in the 1st century CE, during the Maccabean period, you had the Hasmoneans who were, that the family that comes from the Hasmoneans remembers the Maccabees, right? And so they were the Jews in prominent power and the priests then, right? So you had the different sects, SECTS, the Pharisees, the Sadducees. Then you had the Essenes. Then you had the Zealots. Then later on comes the Nazarenes. Then later on comes the Ebionites, right? You have your different sects. So those are all categories of Jews. However, there are subcategories within those groups where they say, okay, these traditions or these legislations, these determine who is a Jew in our group, or what we determine a Jew is, right? Okay, so for example, if in the year 80 CE a Gentile in Ephesus converted or claimed to have converted to Judaism, the local Jewish community would have had to determine whether it would accept him or her as a member. The municipal government would have had to determine whether this person could now enjoy the privileges that traditionally have been extended to Jews, and the imperial government would have had to determine whether this person was now subject to the Jewish tax levied upon all Jews in the Roman Empire as punishment for the war of 66 to 70 CE. So had the conversion taken place before 70 CE, when the Jerusalem temple was still standing, the priest would have had to determine whether this person, once a Gentile, was now to be treated as a Jew and allowed to join other Jews in the inner precincts. All right, so there's no reason to assume that all these jurisdictions would necessarily have reached identical conclusions in every case, or to assume that the boundary definition used by the Jewish community of Ephesus would necessarily have been identical with that which was operative in the other organized Jewish communities of Asia Minor, or for that matter of Italy, Syria, Egypt, North Africa, Judea, and Babylonia. Shalom, brother Antonio. Good to see you here, bro. Thanks for tuning in, tapping in. So, like again, over in the state of Israel right now, they determine who is a Jew according to their Orthodox rabbinical conversion process, right? So I believe they know they're not supposed to necessarily do that, but they're saying, hey, if you want to come into the land, if you want to make Aliyah there, we're not saying you're not a Jew per se, but you're not a Jew according to our faction's definition or processes or regulations or legislation about who we govern to be a Jew, right? And it's different for each sect. So the Karaites may have a certain way they say you're a Jew, right? The ultra Orthodox may say, hey, this is what we deem to be a Jew, so on and so forth, right? All right. A Gentile who engaged in Judaizing behavior may have been regarded as a Jew by Gentiles, but as a Gentile by Jews. We're going to talk about Judaizing just a little bit later, right? And I'm going fast for a reason. I'm trying to get everything done in the next 2 hours that I want to bring out, because I'm going to get my Wakanda Forever on a little later. Right? So.
Oh, no, don't do that.
No, I'm getting my Wakanda on, BA, shoot. Right? So a Gentile who was accepted as a convert by one community may not have been so regarded by another, nor should we assume that the converts of one community were necessarily treated like those of another, because the Jews of antiquity held a wide range of opinions about the degree to which the convert became just like the native born. Right? Y'all getting this now? A little bit? Okay, so the predecessors of the English word Jew, Greek Judeos and Latin Judaeus, were originally ethnic geographic terms like Egyptian, Syrian, Cappadocian, Thracian, and so forth. Thus, instead of Jews, we should, in many cases, speak rather of Judeans, the residents of Judea, which was the geographical location, right? Who constitute the ethnos or nation or people of the Judeans. That's ethnicity, right? I don't know. I don't know why it does that. I don't know. Oh, Shalom, Dougie MM Natsar. Yep. Shalom. Thanks for tuning in, tapping in. All right. So yeah, these are some very good books. This is a very prominent author right here. So the term Jew, Judeos, originally ethnic geographic. We need to remember that, right? So in many cases, we should speak rather of Judeans, the residents of Judea, right? So after Babylonian captivity, you have the southern kingdom, mostly made of the tribe of Judah. However, also some Benjamin and Levi, they moved to the area, and it was called Judea, right? So this area, mainly of the tribe of Judah, Judea. So this is where we get the term Jew, right? Right. So that area became known. It became known to describe those who are in it who exhibit a type of behavior, right? Oh, it's Zadok in the building. Young Chimney, Ben Qatar, right? You know what's going on here, Brother Zadok. I am she that troubleth Israel. I'm a black Jew. She who troubleth Israel. You know what's going on. Come on in here. Nah, thank y'all. Hey, go subscribe to Mr. Blacktastic and go subscribe to Brother Zadok, the God Hop MC. If you can, they do have YouTube channels, and Brother Zadok be getting it in. Last night he was talking about Jesus, the insurrectionist. Hey, that was fire. I was fire. I may not say much, but I'll be listening. But now see, I'm gonna tell y'all something. When Blacktastic and Zadok is in the building in the chat, It's about to go down. Y'all about to be having jaws hurt, stomach hurt, because they are some hilarious brethren. All right, so yeah, the geographical location of Judea, short-term Jew. So those people became to be known as people who exhibit a certain behavior. So they actually worshipped and obeyed and did rituals to the Elohim or deity or power or mighty one of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So anyone in that land or anyone who behaved like people in that land were called a Jew because they exhibited behavior such as they worshipped, paid homage to, did rituals to the Elohim, deity, power, mighty one of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Right? That's right. So, at some point in their history, Greek Judaeos and Latin Judaeus came to have another meaning. A Judaeos is anyone who venerates the God of the Temple of Jerusalem and observes his law. So what that means to venerate the God of the Temple of Jerusalem and observe his laws, you can actually really not believe in this God. Just to venerate just means to acknowledge who he is, and you could just go through the motions without having the heart behind the purpose of the rituals and the ceremonies being done. Right? So that's what it meant to venerate. I recognize who this God is. I acknowledge him, but I just do these actions to go through the motions to say I'm a part of these people. Right? y'all gonna understand what I'm saying a little later. Right? So in other words, Judaeos is a Jew, a term designating culture or religion. It's not. It could be one or the other, right? It doesn't have to mean just culture. It doesn't have to mean just religion, right? So we're getting to. Go ahead, BA.
No, I just want to say, can we expound on culture for a few seconds? Culture.
Go ahead.
No, just overall, like when you hear that word culture, according to the Israelite faith or really the Jewish faith, we're examining. What's the first thing you think of when it comes to culture?
The ways people behave, sort of like what they wear, what they eat, what music they listen to, stuff like that, right?
No, like understanding the science of the language. Would you consider that?
The language would also be with it. The language also what's incorporated in the language is the idioms or slang or euphemisms, right?
Yeah, social norms.
Yep.
Certain cultural practices that are done on the daily.
Yep.
Like you said, eating certain type of standards you live by. And sometimes, according to this, into the world we're in, some traditions that are kept may not even be literally in the Torah that we're all claiming to follow.
Right.
Or there could be some type of interpretation that could be misinterpreting what the Torah is saying, or something added or something taken away, because when you add, you take away, and when you take away, you add. So just giving people much more of a broader sense of what's going on here,
right,
as we continue to go along. So culture is definitely, there's much more to it. You know what I'm saying? So I believe when we say, oh, we want to come back to our culture, and I always say when I'm on the Clubhouse with a few individuals, are you sure? And what, you know what I'm saying? And then some of the ways that are being taught, you come to find out it may not be necessarily in the Torah as you may think it is. So that's just something to kind of point to and just kind of look at and examine as individuals go further along, and when they examine culture of the Jewish people or
right,
the Israelite people, or whatever you want to call it. That's all.
Right. And notice we're using those terms interchangeably because they're the same thing. But Brother Antonio said customs of lifestyle. Yes, that's also incorporated in culture. A lot of tradition as well is incorporated in culture. Right? Certain traditions are not bad. Certain customs are not bad. Right? We like to go out and feed homeless people. That could be a tradition. accustomed. Hey, every Sunday people gather around the table and eat dinner, right?
Yep.
Or me and my husband was talking about, hey, let's either once a month or once every 2 months have a game night where we invite our family and friends over and we just kick it and have a good time. Shalom, Brother Mark. Thanks for tapping in and tuning in.
And culture also identifies who you are. It also identifies what type of standard of living you want to live by. It gives other people on the outside looking in a deeper view or to understand things from your perspective. So people on the outside looking in, and that can be very attractive to those on the outside looking in. So with that being said, is it a problem for those who are on the outside looking in who may actually want to tap in and get familiar with that culture or these social norms or these behaviors that you're displaying? Isn't that something to look at from a positive perspective? Is it anti-Semitic to want to be on the outside, for those on the outside to come in? Is it a sin for those who are on the outside that want to come in? Or is it wrong for those who are on the inside when they bring people in who are willing to come in? Does that make them a traitor? Does that make them a person who's not proud of their race? Does that make them out of order? Just things of that to think on and expound. Right. Keep going, sis.
Right. So numerous different sources attest that Herod the Great was a Judaeus, that is a Judean, a member and king of the ethnic geographic polity constituted by the inhabitants of Judea. So the polity, you know, the government, the governmental legislations, right? Right. So we're gonna look at Herod just for a hot second. How did Herod come to be a Judean or a Jew? Right? Josephus gives two contrasting explanations. He said there was a certain friend of Hyrcanus, an Idumean called Antipater, who, having a large fortune and being by nature a man of action and a troublemaker, was unfriendly to Aristobulus and quarreled with him because of his friendliness to Hyrcanus. Right? So there's an Idumean named Antipater. Right?
An Idumean?
Oh! Hey, BA, we finna get to this. Gina B. Direct. Shalom. Shalom. Thanks for tapping in. Right? So, Antipater, let's see. Antipater was this Idumean, a friend to John Hyrcanus. Now, John Hyrcanus was the Hasmonean. He was the priest, right, during the time 2nd and 1st century CE, right? Right? And Aristobulus quarreled with Antipater because Antipater, an Idumean, was friends with a Jew, John Hyrcanus, right? So, Joseph contends that Herod was really an Idumean. Watch this. He was the son of Antipater the Idumean, scion to a family that had long been prominent in Idumean politics and close to the Hasmonean dynasty. Right? Hyrcanus, watch this, you guys. John Hyrcanus also captured the Idumean cities of Adora and Marissa, and after subduing all the Idumeans, permitted them to remain in their country so long as they had themselves circumcised and were willing to observe the laws of the Judeans. Now we're going to talk about what it meant to be circumcised and willing to observe the laws of the Judeans. And so out of attachment to their ancestral land, they submitted, the Idumeans submitted to circumcision and to having their manner of life in all other respects made the same as that of the Judeans. And from that time on, they have continued to be Judeans, or what some would call Jews. Now we're going to see one definition of the word Jew. Right? So in the 120s BCE, John Hyrcanus incorporated the Idumeans into the Judean state. So here in the United States, right, we have federal and state laws, right? We obey these laws, but sometimes we don't believe in them, but we just say, hey, because we have to live here, we'll go ahead and abide by these laws. We don't want to go to prison. We don't want to go to jail. we're just going to abide by these laws. Not necessarily saying we believe in them. You can follow some without believing in it. See, we're getting to this definition, right? So the Idumeans became Judeans, except that they also still remain Idumeans. Edomites, right? That's what the word is, right? So
no,
they remain Idumeans. So watch this, VA. Politically, they became Judeans, citizens in the Judean state or Judean League. So religiously, they became Jews, at least to the extent that they were expected to observe the laws and customs of the Judeans. Ethnically, however, they remain as they have been, Idumeans or Edomites, just as the Galileans retained their own ethnic geographic identity even after becoming Judeans or Jews. So, just like here in the United States, when someone immigrates and then someone wants to be naturalized and be known as a U.S. citizen, right? If they come from China, if they were born in China, they're Chinese, right? They have all the Chinese features, right? They still remain Chinese. However, they're also known as U.S. citizens because they're following what politically what it means to be a citizen. They have the rights and benefits and privileges of the United States. Am I making sense?
not Esau. No. Oh no, Esau.
But what we're getting at is the first definition here of what it means to be a Jew, citizen, a political,
Still Esau.
of the Judean state. Yep, and they were known as Jews. So that's one definition of what it means to be a Jew. When you're in the land of Judea, you say you're going to adhere to these laws. You're saying, hey, I'm going to adhere to these laws. I'm going to follow them. I'm going to do them. Not necessarily because I believe, but I want the rights, the privileges, and the benefits. Okay, what you gonna say something, BA? Because I gotta continue.
No, keep. Oh my gosh, Esau. Oh no. Oh Lord, I do my Fred Sanford on y'all, being gospel.
Right? Hey, this stuff is crazy. All right, so the historical Herod certainly was Jewish. That is, Jewish. He's a member of the community, those who revere the God whose temple is in Jerusalem. So Herod even built a magnificent temple for this guy. Herod may have been a Jew, but he was also a bad Jew, right? Now, if you do some bad things, don't mean you're not a Jew. Just mean you might not necessarily be known as a good Jew, right? Most forms of ancient Judaism, I think, would have disapproved of Herod's murder of his wives and children, right? All right. So, this word Judeos. So I talked about the ambiguity, the different variations of meanings in the word Jew. So Jew, Judeos in the Greek, is a political term. It's a political term, an ethnogeographic term, and a religious term. You guys getting this? So it shows that Jewishness is a function of both ethnicity, birth, and religion, culture. All right? So it's a political term, an ethnic geographic term, and a religious term. Right? It shows that the definition of conversion is a complicated matter. That's why I wanted to talk about this, right? So conversion is a complicated matter. So when somebody converts over to being a Jew, they're not necessarily saying, hey, I'm religious. They could just say, hey, I just want to be a citizen. I'll follow these laws just so I can get some rights, benefits, privileges, right? It shows that manipulation of genealogy was relatively easy in antiquity since there were no geological records or written documentation by which a Jew could prove that he really was Jewish. Let me say that line again, because when somebody tries to tell you, oh, you not this, prove this. Why? Why do I have to prove it to you? Genealogy The manipulation of it was easy in antiquity, say, because there was no geological records or written documentation by which a Jew could prove that he really was Jewish. Which one trumps the other? No one trumps the. No, which one trumps the other? They're both on. They're all the definitions of Jewish: political, ethnic, geographic, and religious.
And we're just showing you guys this from a historical perspective. This stuff is historic. This information is here. All we got to do is just take our time and read it and examine it and critically look at it. It's there.
Uh-oh.
That's the elder.
It's the elder in the building. Mr. Blacktastic, Brother Isaiah, what's happening? Shalom. Oh, you got to get your sound right.
Foggy start today. It's been busy. I was trying to finish listening to my brother Zadok's awesome Bible class from Friday and making sure I didn't miss. So when you sent the link, I didn't see it until late because I had a lot of my devices shut down and recharging. So I'm just here for support to listen in because you and I have had UI and BA. We've all had some great discussions on this extensively, especially as of late with everything that's going on. Because it's a timely subject that does need to be discussed. So I'm glad that we're having this discussion. And we got Amore Zadok also in the chat, and as far as I know, we all share pretty much the same perspective, on this entire thing. I was watching him and Morey Bunton, man, about a week ago.
Yeah, that was fire.
And I know they stepped on a lot of toes, but if you're gonna really be committed to the call, you got to be willing to, be unpopular and say inconvenient things, because this ministry is about truth. We're not about trying to soothe people's ego or feelings to make them feel good. We're trying to give them the truth so they will be good, and be right. As you were saying, Herod was a bad Jew, and so we want people to get the truth and be right. So I'm just glad to be here. So keep going. I'm listening with an attentive ear.
No doubt. All right. So I don't know if I want to read anything from this chapter. It talks about those who say they are Jews and are not. I know this is. I don't like talking about this verse for a lot of reasons. However, the first people that came in mind of who this phrase was talking about, it was actually talking about actual Jews, natural born Jews. That's what some people really understand. Right? Let me see. Yeah, I don't want to read a bunch of stuff from here. I don't want to read a bunch of stuff, but I'll read a few things. So yeah, Brother Zadok said, "Wow." How to recognize a Jew? I'll say this real quick. It says, according to Tacitus, one of the historians here, it says circumcision began as a sign by which Jews would recognize each other, and by Tacitus's own time, it had become a sign by which outsiders would recognize Jews. So, in the city of Rome in the 1st century CE, certainly in the latter parts of the century, circumcision served as a marker of Jewishness. But in the eastern parts of the empire, at least until the 1st century CE, circumcision cannot have served as such a marker because it was practiced by non-Jews as well as Jews. Right? So, circumcision. Right? They talk about circumcision a lot here. I don't want to get into circumcision a lot in this from this chapter. In later chapters, the more pertinent information will also talk about the circumcision part. So that's why I don't want to get into much of that chapter 2. But were there official lists or registers of Jews? I want to talk a little bit about this part right here. So, were there official lists or registers of Jews? So remember, just a few minutes ago, I was saying there were no genealogical records or documentation to actually exist during that time, so that somebody can prove that they're a Jew or that they're Jewish, right? So watch this. If someone claimed to be Jewish by birth, could his or her pedigree be checked? If someone claimed to be a convert, could this claim somehow be verified? Watch this. There is abundant and probative evidence that priests or Kohanim kept careful genealogical records both before and after the destruction of the Second Temple, and that they carefully checked or were expected to check the pedigree of their marriage partners. So this is the priest or the Kohanim, right? When the temple was still standing, these records apparently were public and were maintained in the temple. So this is the priestly, right? I know in the book of Ezra, I believe in chapter 1 or chapter 2, certain of the priests could not prove their genealogical because maybe the records were not there, and so they could not physically be in that position to be priests until those records were found, if I'm not mistaken, in the book of Ezra, right? So whether lay Jews or regular Jew folk, right? Whether regular Jew folk too were similarly obsessed with their genealogies is not as clear. Please start paying attention to this, right? Please start paying attention to this, right? So various individuals may have kept private family genealogies, but there were no public archives that would have been of use. A register for converts is even less likely to have existed. Julius Africanus, the time of Herod, says the Hebrew families and those traceable to proselytes, we're going to talk about that word too, right? Hebrew families and those traceable to proselytes, such as Achior the Ammonite and Ruth the Moabite, and the mixed families which had come out of Egypt, all these were enrolled in the archives. That's what he says. But furthermore, before the rabbinic innovations of the 2nd century of our era, conversion to Judaism was entirely a private and personal affair. Right? The conversion was not supervised or sponsored by anyone, and there were no established standards that had to be met, except for circumcision, right? Especially for the male. A register for converts before the 2nd or 3rd century CE is impossible to conceive. A register for converts after the 2nd or 3rd century CE is conceivable, but undocumented. Shay J.D. Cohen wrote this book. He is a professor and a rabbi. He is Jewish. This is coming directly from him. So when somebody says, hey, prove it. Prove you're a Jew. All I got to tell somebody is, look, I'm a descendant of a person who was brought over here in the transatlantic slave trade, who have been traced back to these tribes, who have been traced back to live in this area, and they have witnesses, understanding, oral history, documentation that some of their tribe members went into this slavery. That's all I got to say. If somebody wants to say you're not, I'd be like, hey, how you going to tell me what I'm not? I can say, you know what? You being anti-Semitic.
Oh, don't you do that.
Oh, I'm doing it, BA. Because guess what? I could say I've went through the rituals. I've went through the processes that this tribe asserts is a Jew. I could say, hey, I've went through the Torah cycle at least 3 years. I could say, hey, they did a bat mitzvah. I could say, hey, I've done the feast days for at least this amount of time. I've kept Shabbat for at least this amount of time. I've kept kosher for at least this amount of time.
Uh-oh.
So in sum, genealogical investigation would have been based not on documents, but on the memory of oral informants. So when we talk about the Limba Jews, when we talk about the Ethiopian Jews, when we talk about the Nigerian Igbo Jews, oral informants. That's all I need. Huh? That's all I need. All right. I don't want to read much of that. Don't want to read much of that. I want to get to some information. I got another hour and a half. All right. It says here you might be considered to be Jewish by observance or Jewish by talking to somebody, but Jewish by observance says the Romans understood. This is important. The Romans understood that the observance of Jewish laws was an essential aspect of Jewishness. Watch this. So thus in what does it say? 4948 BCE, the proconsul L. Lentulus granted special privileges to Roman citizens in Ephesus who were Jews and defined the category Jews to mean those who have and observe Jewish sacred things, or whoever seem to me to have and observe Jewish sacred things. I am not sure exactly what these phrases mean, but it is clear that if someone wanted to be treated as a Jew by the state, he had to behave as a Jew, that is, observe Jewish laws. So the Romans say, hey, we called you a Jew if you were over here behaving like these people over in Judea. Right? That's what it's saying. All right. So if you're observing Passover, unleavened bread, all that stuff, to the Romans, they was like, look, you a Jew. Right? All right. So I think I'm making good timing. Chapter 3 in this book, right? I'm not going over everything, but I'm going over the pertinent parts, right? So Judaeus, Judean, Jew. All right. Okay, so we're going to talk further more about another definition of this word, right? So remember, it was political, it was ethnic geographic, and it was religious. And Gina V. Direct say, oh, hey, that's cool, sis, that the understanding is coming alive, right? Because, like I said, the Jewish community probably has not done a good job of explaining who and what is a Jew. Now, there are other videos, like one Blacktastic shared with me yesterday. He shared it with me in VA yesterday. It's about 5 minutes long, and it gives a pretty good summary of who they deem to be Jewish. And what I'm doing here is expounding just a little bit more on what that guy was saying in the video. There's all these definitions to what it means to be a Jew, right? And we'll also bring up what it is when they talk about secular Jew, right? Okay, so in the second half of the second century BCE, the term Judaeus for the first time is applied. Watch this, 2nd century BCE. Keep in mind, right? Please keep these things in mind, these dates, these times, right? So second half, the 2nd century BCE, the term Judaeus for the first time is applied even to people who are not ethnic or geographic Judeans, but who either have come to believe in the God of the Judeans, right? For example, they have become Jews or have joined the Judean state as allies or citizens, right? That's that definition of Judeans or Jews in that political sense, right? Watch this, you guys. Oh, the computer. Okay. Okay, he's backstage. Okay. Back in. All right, so it was only in the Maccabean period that the ethnic geographic self-definition was supplemented by religious or cultural and political definitions, because it was only in this period that the Judean ethnos opened itself to the incorporation of outsiders. So the author says in this chapter, he discusses the development of the word Judeos. Let's take a look at it. This is very important, right? As Josephus explains, from the time they went up from Babylon, they were called by this name Judei, right? Judei, after the tribe of Judah. Remember, I explained that a few minutes ago, right? After Babylonian captivity, they went over to this land, and because of the majority of the tribe of Judah in this land called Judea, right? And this land came to have a definition of those who behave a certain, those who live in this land behave a certain way, right? Now, I didn't highlight this, but this is very important. So, in the period of interest to us, the word Judeos, right, has three basic meanings, right? This you're gonna like this, Gina V Direct. It has three basic meanings. A Jew means a Judean. It's a function of birth and or geography, so it's a land, right? And if it's a land area, geographic location. If you're born there, you're Judean, right? If you're born in that area, you're a Judean. It also has the meaning of a Jew, which it's a function of religion or culture, right? And another definition is it means a citizen or ally of the Judean state. It's a function of politics. These are the meanings of Jew. So a Jew who is a citizen, not necessarily a Jew in function of religion or culture. A Jew in a religion or culture is not necessarily a Judean, meaning they were birthed in that land of geographical location, right? So the number 3 definition right here, a citizen or ally of the Judean state, those would be today termed secular Jews. Oh my goodness, that's sis. Okay, that's sis Nashawn. You got so many different names, sometimes it's hard to keep up. But I feel you. Thank you for tapping in, sis. I hope this is edifying, liberating, encouraging, and bring some clarification, right? So secular Jews, they're just citizens or allies of the people, right? Okay. So what I say, a Jew is a Judean. A Jew is also somebody who functions in the religion or culture, or a Jew is a citizen or ally of the Judean state. All right. So before about 100 BCE, Judeos always and only meant Judean in sense 1, right? So Judeus is a Judean, right? That's a function of birth. You're born there. You have the geography there, right? Judea is the name of both a country and a district. So the writings of Josephus show that Judea is the name both of the entire land of Israel, including its districts of Idumea, Judea, Samaria, Galilee, and Perea, and also of a specific district, Judea, in contrast with the other districts, Idumea, Samaria, Galilee, and Perea. Right? That's what I wanted to say. Judea consists of Samaria, Galilee, right? So when somebody says, oh, these Samaritan Jews or Galilean Jews, right? They're all Jews, but they're subcategories of Jews, right? So before 100 BCE, the number 1 definition was you're Judean because you lived in that land. All right. Number 2. This was the Judeos or Jew, meaning someone who adheres to the culture or religion, right? So A Judeos is someone who believes or is supposed to believe certain distinctive tenets and or follows or is supposed to follow certain distinctive practices. In other words, a Judeos is a Jew, someone who worships the God whose temple is in Jerusalem and who follows the way of life of the Jews.
Hey, Shanti, can I say something
Yeah,
real quick?
absolutely.
You remember when I was telling you I was watching Shlomo Sands, Dr. Shlomo Sands, who's a professor at Tel Aviv University, and he's probably one of the most controversial figures in rabbinic Judaism because because of the books that he's written. And I thought it was ironic as we talked about how Kyrie didn't even make a statement; he just shared a link, and he was called anti-Semitic, but yet a person who is acknowledged as a Jew and a citizen of Israel has written probably what is considered far more anti-Semitic material than the Hebrews to Negroes video, right? You know, and he's famous for his lectures, but because he didn't quote, I think because he didn't quote Hitler, he kind of got a pass, but they can't deny him his citizenship. And in his lecture, where he talked about why I stopped being, he said he has a lecture and a book called Why I Stopped Being a Jew. Mm-hmm. And what he said was based on this definition that you just read right here. And he said, you know, they understand that a secular Jew is actually a new thing. He said, because it historically doesn't exist. Because to be a true Jew meant someone who actually believed, you know, in Torah, someone who kept covenant, you know, someone who walked in the ways, basically everything they say in the ways of Yah. And so he said, but, you know, that's the terminology that people are using now. So he said, because he doesn't believe is the reason why he said, you know, he's technically not a Jew, even though he is, you know, considered a Jew by the establishment. But some of his books, you know, the invention of the Jewish people, all these different things, like, you know, it's pretty interesting how he lays out his argument. But you don't see them clamoring for him to be, you know, censored and silenced. He still has emeritus status, you know, at Tel Aviv University and things of this sort. But it's interesting that he takes the more biblical definition, you know, and I think it's interesting. You bringing it out real good here.
Yeah. Hey, this is Shay J.D. Cohen, a professor rabbi at Harvard University, a Jew. This is someone who is a Jew who's telling us these things. But yeah, like you said, Shlomo Sand pointed out that this is a new thing, and it's a new thing per 2nd century BCE. You know, so there was a lot of things brought on years later, after Babylonian captivity. We start to see development of sects. We start to see development of new definitions, and like you said, we're looking at the etymology of the word. So yeah, they incorporated these definitions to mean somebody who's a Jew. But yeah, what we see in the biblical sense is somebody who would be a Jew, would be taking on the ways of the Most High Yod He Wahe, right? Taking on the covenant, taking on the ways of the Most High Yod He Wahe.
I just want to say something real quick based on these what you were looking at.
Yeah.
You know, we like to claim that we're Israel. And as we see over history, how the term Jew has been changed and morphed and added to. As Israelites, we should be well aware of this.
Yeah.
But for some reason, we're not. So it's very imperative that we step up our scholarship when it comes to our history and our culture and our book and our God, as we like to say. Just wanted to add that.
Yeah. Shalom to Israelite only camp killer IOCK. Yeah, we do believe all people can become Jews. Because this to what we're bringing out here, all humanity comes from the creator. We believe Yod He Wahe. All humanity comes from this creator. And when all humanity got scattered, we believe that Abraham was the spearhead to get humanity back to its creator. So over time, humanity, the ways, the practices, the rituals, over time, all of this stuff that we're supposed to do as far as being obedient to our creator, it has morphed into, like BA said, it has morphed or changed into Jew. That's all. It's done. So when we say Israelite, when we say Jew, same thing. With what's going on, I have started to learn and process that I need to claim who I am and start being cool in who I am and understand the root of who I am and use terminology to show who I am. Jew. I'm a Messianic Jew. All right. So yes, Judeus, someone who's supposed to believe, supposed to follow, or the and worshiping the God whose temple is in Jerusalem, and follow the ways of life, right? Given to these people by this deity, right? So that would be the religious cultural definition, right? All right, so a Gentile, someone who's of the nations, they're human beings, can become a Jew. Similarly, several converts to Judaism in antiquity were commemorated on their epitaphs as Jews, right? So, I want to read this just a little bit. In the mid-1st century BCE, a Roman official implicitly equated the ethnic association of Judeans on Delos with the religious association of the Jews of Rome. In the High Roman Empire, the usual designation of the Jewish communities of the diaspora was synagogue, community, or congregation, rather than the ethnic designations that have been common earlier. So now they're called communities of the diaspora synagogue. They're called the synagogue now, right? Oh, thank you, Brother Zadok. All praise to the Most High Yod He Wahe. Great information. Yes. Like I said, we want to make sure people start understanding these things so that we don't get in trouble and that we take pride in who we are and we understand better that the term Jew is not a derogatory term like the N word. Right? So let me say this. The Judeans of Judea in the 2nd century BCE also began to redefine their community in terms of religion, which is the worship of the God whose temple is in Jerusalem. But neither in the homeland nor in the diaspora did the Judeans give themselves a new name to reflect this development. Even in the diaspora, they remain Judeans. Right? So the third definition, right? Judeos is a citizen or ally of the Judean state. This is the category that Shlomo Sand, Professor Shlomo Sand will fall under, correct? Blacktastic? Judeos, a citizen or ally of the Judean state. So this is what the Idumeans or the Edomites would be classified as when they converted over into Judaism by John Hyrcanus. More so, right? More so this definition. A little bit of the religious definition because they followed the laws, but they, which is going through the motions, really to show their citizenship, right? You have to obey the laws of the land there to get the rights, benefits, and privileges, right? Right. So a Judeus is a citizen or ally of the Judean state, a function of politics, right? So any citizen or ally of the Judean state was or could be regarded as a Judean, a Jew. Josephus reports Hyrcanus' conquest of Idumea as follows. Hyrcanus also captured the Idumean cities of Adora and Marissa, and after subduing all the Idumeans, permitted them to remain in their country so long as they had themselves circumcised and were willing to observe the laws of the Judeans. So ethnically, Idumeans are not Judeans, right? They didn't have necessarily the facial features, right? But by joining the Judeans, they have become known as Judeans and become Judeans, citizens. Shalom, shalom, Dominique. All praise to the Most High. Appreciate that. Right? Yeah, this is something to share and spread everywhere. Yes, please don't forget to like this, share this, right? And subscribe. Subscribe to the channel if you could. Subscribe to Debate Talk for You if you're watching it there. Subscribe to 916 Sean if you're watching it there, right? This is information we all need to know. If we get better educated, some of our comments in our Facebook posts, our Instagram posts, and the like will follow suit. That we understand, we know what we're saying. And I forgot to say shalom to this person right here. Yachalia Persuvel, if I'm saying the name correctly. Salicha, forgive me if I'm not saying it correctly. But shalom, brother Vinny D. Shalom, my bro Vinny D. What's happening? All right. So let's continue a little bit here. I want to read this part real quick. Talking about literary evidence to show who's Judean, who's Jew, right? Anybody who denounces idolatry. Bel and the Dragon in the Apocrypha consists of 2 stories, in each of which Daniel demonstrates to the Persian king the silliness of idol worship. Right? So when the Babylonians heard that Daniel, with the king's approval, had destroyed the great dragon whom they revered, they concluded that the king has become a Judaeus, for he has destroyed Baal and killed the dragon and slaughtered the priests. The king's denial of the Babylonian gods makes him a Judaeus. So anyone who denies idolatry is called a Jew, definitely during this time, 1st century CE. So thus in this passage, the fundamental meaning remains Judean, but insofar as the passage recognizes that the fundamental distinctiveness of the Judeans lies in their denial of other gods, the meaning Jew is beginning to emerge. So when somebody is converting, why call them fake? That's crazy.
Now,
when somebody go ahead, Black Task.
You're meddling good, all right? You're meddling good because I brought this up about a week ago when I did the teaching on what is anti-Semitism, and I told folks to start calling themselves Jews. Start saying you were a Jew. Some of the responses I got in private were I'm not even offended anymore. It's just comical because I know that a lot of times our people really we're held hostage by our own ignorance.
Man.
And we don't want to admit it. So they're determined to say, no, I'm an Israelite, or no, I'm a Hebrew, and that's fine. Because I'll tell you this, from my experience, there's not one rabbi I've ever talked to who ever said that an Israelite or a Jew was a different thing. But amongst Black Israelites in particular, we've been so messed up by the racist structure that we've been raised in that we're color obsessed. So we say a lot of things in the same manner that we've been taught in this society without realizing that we're taking on the ways of the oppressor. So now we always have to define ourselves based on our skin tone, and that's actually anti-biblical. And you don't realize that you're actually making a lesser argument, and you need to adopt the argument that other folks are making, because what you're going to do by doing that, by calling yourself a Jew or Jew, ain't nothing wrong with being called an Israelite. Ain't got no problem with that. But when you start to use it to distinguish yourself from other folks who we like to call Jew-ish, as if ish makes them not really. And that, again, I addressed that too, that whole issue about people not understanding the difference between an adjective and an adverb. Ish don't mean they're not really Jewish. All right. No more than British don't mean not really British, or Spanish don't mean not really Spanish. You know, these are adjectives that describe people based on culture, lineage, or ancestral origin. But we, again, in our own bigotry that we deny in trying to point out other people's bigotry and racism, we have adopted these racial tropes. And so we've actually strayed from the covenant and going against Torah when we do that. And so there's nothing wrong with calling yourself a Jew. We said, well, I'm going to start doing it because there's a legal issue here.
That's right.
You got to force yourself to be recognized. And anybody that says to you as a black Jew, you're not Jewish, and you ask them based on what? Well, you're black. That's anti-Semitic. But if you're determined to distinguish yourself from them because you're black and say, no, I'm a Hebrew Israelite, I'm a black Hebrew Israelite, now you're just being foolish, and you're gonna
and racist.
And racist, right? Because you're gonna defeat yourself.
And exclusivism, which is not of the Most High.
Exactly. And so I'm trying to give people strategy. That's what I always recommend to folks. Look, start reading The Art of War. Read Miyamoto Musashi's Book of Five Rings. These are not religious texts, but these are strategic texts that help you organize arguments and thoughts so that you can make, your case more effectively. And folks be like, no, I ain't selling out. Well, you ain't buying in either.
Oh man, you just killed majority of the 99 pseudo scholars on the internet with that one. Oh my goodness, bro. Elder, hey, when you're amongst your elders, be slow to speak. I ain't got nothing else to say, man.
I mean, we have to, at some point, buying in don't mean selling out. It means investing in truth so that you can do what? Help liberate people from their ignorance and advance them.
Yeah.
And this is something that we're going to have to really come to grips with. We have to start learning how to make more allies instead of enemies. Because when you start off just making enemies, shooting at everybody, well, when they got more guns and more bullets and start shooting back, you're going to get wiped out.
Huh.
And so strategy, necessitates learning how to navigate through all of these minefields so that you don't blow yourself up, but so that you can get in a position to actually help others like yourself to get in. Somebody has to be Jackie Robinson.
Come on.
And Jackie Robinson, I'm going to land my plane on this. Jackie Robinson had to make a sacrifice that people still don't understand to this day. They think he was just a black man hitting the baseball, running around bases as the first. No, Jackie Robinson had to take tremendous abuse and other things because they told him, Branch Rickey, the Dodgers owner, told him, who was Jewish, by the way, told him, if you fight back, because Jackie Robinson was known for having a temper problem. This guy was a veteran. He was an officer who survived a court-martial, which was unusual for a black man in that time. He didn't take no stuff. He was known for fighting in the Negro Leagues. They told him, you got to take it, because if you don't, you ain't going to be able to open the door for the rest of your people.
Come on.
And because Jackie Robinson took getting his hand stepped on when he slid head first in the base, getting bulled over, getting hit with and beamed with baseballs and things of this sort, have them thrown at his head. And they didn't have them hard helmets back then, and getting hit and stuff like that. Because he was strategic and they had a plan and he was willing to make the sacrifice, look at the major leagues now. Because of him, a guy like Curt Flood, who was revolutionary, was now able to come in without having to not be revolutionary and stand up for his rights and other players' rights and other black folks' rights through baseball. And so we have to be more strategic. Every white person ain't my enemy. Every one of our white Jewish brethren isn't my enemy. And if folks got a problem like that, that's their fault and not mine. I'm trying to advance a people. And so if you have to be Jackie Robinson, be Jackie Robinson to get the door open, to get the rest of your people in.
Right.
And that's what we have to start really, understanding. It may not be a direct, because some people want to be exactly this, that. No, take the principle from it.
The principle.
Okay? Take the principle from it. Because, my sister Gina says strategy is relative, but survival is regardless. So regardless of the situation, you got to be strategic.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And so we have to learn how to do some things differently.
That's right. We got to learn how to do some things differently. And one of those things I explained is we have to get out of this exclusivism, because what we're doing is we're saying only us can be servants of the Most High Yod Hey Wah. That is asinine. All humanity can be servants, children of the Most High Yod Hey Wah.
There's no such thing as a spiritual Israelite.
Hey, I mean, it's spiritual and natural. Don't we all go back, even if we go back to Japheth or Ham. We're humanity, and humanity was the first priest. If you go to the language in the first chapters of Genesis, humanity was said to need to dress and keep Abad and Shamar. And if you go to the book of Numbers, you see that language is used when it gives instructions to the priest. So humanity were the initial priest on the earth.
Ooh, and we're not humanity where they were created not to die. So they were doing something eternal for a while.
Right, and it was just to represent. It was to represent on earth their deity, their father, who was in the heavenly. That's it.
So would that make them spiritual?
Yeah, natural and spiritual. So yeah, but let me continue. So in conclusion, we're talking about the etymology of Judaeus. So Judaeos in the Greek, or Latin Judaeus in Hebrew Yehudi, are almost always translated as Jew, but in all occurrences of the term before the end of the 2nd century BCE, that translation is wrong. But because before that point, these words always and everywhere mean Judean, not Jew. So Judean, your person from the land, but now Jew now comes to mean right, someone who's not only a citizen but someone who is a worshiper of the God whose temple is in Jerusalem. Right. Shalom, John Williams. Thank you for tapping in. Zadok said, "That's right. Read." They do it in my camp voice. Zadok over there cutting up as usual. But
you see what Gina be a direct said. She said something very profound that I agree with her wholeheartedly. And she said, perhaps the issue is that we're attempting to create or perpetuate labels from our understanding and not Yahweh. And she's exactly right. I agree with that 1,000%.
1,000%. I wholeheartedly agree with that. We're coming up with definitions to, like you said, try to distinguish ourselves or try to separate ourselves from our brothers who may not have as much melanin as we do. I think that's sick. No doubt. All right, so and I know people were asking for the link to join in here. I'm definitely willing to give the link. I don't want this to go over like 12:30 because my husband is gonna get me because we gotta go hang out and get our Wakanda on. You know what I'm saying? Because I do want to allow people in. I know there was the Israelite ICOK, I believe, who asked about it. Maybe Zadok wants to get in. And Hashem Zadek, you said some very gonna have to pocket that one and look into that later. Yeah. Hey, the stuff in the Hebrew, whew. Sometimes you see it in that language and then it comes to light. Sometimes the translations don't do it necessarily a great service, but yeah. Dress and keep. That means work and serve. Work and serve. Work, serve, and keep. Guard. So that's all humanity. We're supposed to be doing that. So Jew, at least in English, is a religious term. A Jew is someone who venerates the God of the Judeans, the God whose temple is in Jerusalem. Jew then denotes culture, way of life, or religion, not ethnic or geographic origin, right? So in the Hellenistic period, during the time of the Greeks, virtually all Judeans will have been Jews. That is, virtually all members of the Judean ethnos will have worshipped the God whose temple is in Jerusalem, right? During the persecution by Antiochus and let me say that name right. During the persecution by Antiochus Epiphanes, some Judeans become apostates and no longer worship the ancestral God properly. Right? So out of the clash between Judaism, the ways of the Judeans, and Hellenism, the ways of the Greeks, emerged two new definitions of Judeos that for the first time allowed Gentiles the opportunity to join the Judean people. And the first definition, I said, was political, right? The Judeans form a political community and could extend citizenship even to non-natives. Right? But they joined the Judean people and declared loyalty to the God of the Judeans. Now, declaring loyalty to the God is not necessarily say we believe in this God. We just loyal to him. We're going to go through these motions because we respect these people. Right? With the demise of the Hasmonean Empire, this political definition faded as well, but left behind clear traces in later Jewish reflections on the meaning and process of conversion to Judaism. Right? The second definition, and we're going to talk about the conversion at the climax of this, which I have to get to shortly, right? The second definition was cultural or religious. The Judeans form a religious community and could extend membership to non-natives who believe in the God of the Judeans and observe his precepts. A non-Judean could become a Judeos by joining the Judeans and venerating the one true God, the God whose temple is in Jerusalem. So there's a difference I see in venerating versus worshiping, right? So second Maccabees 6:6 and 9:17, the first witness to this new conception and new terminology, mark an important turning point in the history of the word Judeos and indeed in the history of Judaism. So when you see the term Judaismos, it should be translated not as Judaism but as Judeanness. Its antonym is the adoption of foreign ways or paganism, and more particularly Hellenismos, the adoption of Greek ways, right? Sure. All right, so becoming a Jew. Let me get through this part. So let me see. So in the century following the Hasmonean rebellion, two new meanings of Judeans emerged, right? So Judeans are all those of whatever ethnic or geographic origin who worship the God whose temple is in Jerusalem. That's the religious definition, or who have become citizens of the state established by the Judeans, the political definition, right? So with the emergence of these new definitions in the 2nd century BCE, the metaphoric boundary separating Judeans from non-Judeans became more and more permeable. So in this chapter here, this is the author speaking, the first of 4 on Gentiles becoming Jews. I studied the phenomenon historically, how they can become Jews, right? You can get a change of citizenship, right? You become a Jew by getting a change of citizenship, and we saw that with the Hasmonean conquest of the Idumeans in about 128 BCE, right? I'm not going to talk more about that. We've already talked about that to a certain extent, right? The thing, okay. Because I highlighted a lot in this book, but I'm not going over everything for time's sake, right? In the biblical model, the Hasmonean policy was not derived from the pages of the Tanakh. So the Tanakh is the Torah, Navi'im, the Ketuvim, the Torah, which is the instructions, the Navi'im, the prophets, the Ketuvim, the writings, right? So the Hasmonean policy of who can become a Jew or who can convert to Judaism, whether it be political or religious, it was not derived from the pages of the Tanakh. As you notice in the Tanakh, there's no prescribed ritual that a person has to go through to become a Jew. Pretty much, if you were at Mount Sinai and you sojourned with the people, you pretty much were a part of that nation. You were a part of that nation of people of Israel, and you said you would adhere to the law, statutes, and commandments that were a part of the covenant or the agreement, right? Right. Let me say this. Okay, so the Gibeonites were not of Israelite stock, but a remnant of the Amorites massacred by King Saul. But a mixed multitude is said to have accompanied the Israelites on the exodus from Egypt. So numerous foreigners, either in the army or at court, Doeg the Edomite, Ittai of Gath, Zelek the Ammonite, Uriah the Hittite. There is no hint that any of these people ever converted or were ever regarded as Israel, right? Naturals, right? But they were a part of this nation. Right, there was no formal procedure or process by which this result could be attained. So we don't see this in the Tanakh. So similarly, similarly, numerous laws in the Torah refer to the resident alien or ger. In the earliest literary strata, the ger's social inequality is treated by the legislator. Alongside the widow and orphan, the ger is a potential victim of abuse and consequently in need of protection and help. In contrast, the priestly sources, P&H, are primarily concerned to establish legal equality between the ger and the native. Phrases like "there shall be one law for you," the native and the ger alike appear frequently in the priestly text. I just talked about that in Leviticus a little while ago, right? But even the priestly legislators prescribe no ritual or vehicle by which a ger can ever become not a ger, right? But we're going to start to see some things. So if the resident alien wishes to eat of the paschal sacrifice, he must first circumcise all the males of his household. Circumcision does not make the resident alien into a native, however, rather it gives him the right to participate in a ritual that would otherwise be closed to him. He remains a resident alien, right? So in the Greek, the word ger, the Hebrew word ger, would be parikas, right? And we start to see the word proselyte. We start to see the word proselyte, especially in the New Testament. So proselyte in the 3rd and 2nd centuries BCE, it did not necessarily mean convert, but watch this, by rabbinic times, to be sure, exegetes could securely distinguish those passages that spoke about the resident alien, the ger toshav, right? The dweller, and from those that spoke about the convert, ger sedek, a righteous convert, right? A resident convert and a righteous convert. So during the rabbinic times. Now, I know in Matthew 23, Yeshua says the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. And in Moses' seat, they were supposed to read from Moses, right? The law of Moses, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, right? Yeshua did say, hey, whatever they bid you to do, do. But don't do as they do, because they say and they don't do. So the Pharisees are pretty much the sect from what gave way to them from the great men of the assembly. Before that, it was Ezra and Nehemiah. What Ezra and Nehemiah started to do was create reforms, right? Reforms. You start to see them interpreting things that are not even found in the written Torah, right? They say you got to do things this way, you know. So you have Ezra and Nehemiah. They start with the reforms. That gives way to the great men of the assembly being able to do reforms, to interpret things from the written Torah that would not necessarily have been interpreted that way before. And then you get the sect out of them, which is the Pharisees, right? The Pharisees, the pious ones. So the Pharisees, they come up with the fence laws, or what's known as the oral laws, or what's known as the Talmud. The Talmud consists of the Mishnah, the Halakha, how to carry something out, and the Gemara. The Gemara is the different rabbis and sages in there talking about how they came up with the various definitions or interpretations or meanings of how to carry something out or walk something out, right? So during this time, they are the ones who start to give definitions to these things, because they're saying, hey, how do we keep certain people of the nations out, and how do we go through a vetting process to know which ones are serious so that we can let them in, right? So they come up with this conversion process. So the Pharisees would now be known as what you call Rabbinical Judaism, or Orthodox Rabbinical Judaism, and that's the Judaism that's ruling and reigning in Israel, in that land today, right? I know I said a bunch, but I just wanted to put that forth, right? So let me go to this part. Okay, so the Greek word politia means in the first instance citizenship. So the word also refers to the institutions and conventions within which a citizen exercises his citizenship. So law of the land or way of life would be better explained as politia. So the politia of an individual is his citizenship. The politia of a state is his way of doing things, right? So when Antiochus decreed after his conquest of Judea in 200 BCE, he said, let all those from this nation conduct their way of life, politia, in accordance with their ancestral laws. So we start seeing more definition of what it means to be a Jew, as far as you're a citizen, right? You're taking on this way of life in the public, right?
Shanti.
Yeah.
I wanted, while you were talking, I went to the Talmud and I found something that I think you might think that you and the audience would think is very interesting, both you and Brother B.A., because the things you're bringing out about what a Jew is, and this all speaks to not only those who are blood-born, but also converted. And that seems to be something that when people get caught up with color, they forget what the mission of Israel is. Mm-hmm. And the Talmud, there's a very interesting part. If I could show it on the screen.
Hold on. What tractate are you in? Because I'm gonna bring something up. What tractate are you in?
Let me see here. Which one does this say?
Yeah. Give out.
I'm gonna bring stuff up, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, because I got. Well, what part are you looking at? The Mishnah, or are you looking at?
He looking at it again. Tractate.
I'm in the because I pulled up multiple Talmuds, so I'm looking at Mishnah. Okay. Well, yeah, Mishnah Gemara here, but this one says, let me see here. Well, this is tractate? In the way that this is chapter 8, but this is tractate. Let me find it.
It's a name for it. Is it Yevamot?
I'm looking for the name right now because
is it? What's the other one? Ado Zarah? Was that the other one?
Avodah Zarah.
Avodah Zarah.
Yeah.
Because what I'm looking at right now is kind of just breaking down the notes. Like it has the different rabbis here, like R. Elazar and R. Yohanan. It has their quotes here. But I can't find, in this particular one, I can't find the track. Hold on, let me see something. Okay, where was I? Okay. So this is, I think, I was just in.
You cutting out.
How, or here, this one said, here. I got track.
Yeah, you cutting out a lot. You cutting out a lot. We can sound like a robot, and then you was cutting out. I am gonna show something. I got about half an hour left. You know what I'm saying? I got about half an hour left. I do want to bring some things out before I run out of time, though.
Yeah.
Hold on, brother Isaiah. Blacktastic. I can't hear you. You sound like a robot. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, brother Isaiah? You sound like a robot. You definitely sound like a robot. He having some issues with his computer. Okay. Until he comes back, I want to bring some things out because I got about half an hour left, right? Does the Hebrew Bible contain the idea that a non-Israelite can somehow become Israelite by believing in the one true God? The answer is no. Because the link between God and his people is not natural but covenantal, and would seem to allow others to choose God to be their Lord, because of that link, right? Because of the covenantal. So Israelites became a nation by standing at the foot of Mount Sinai and binding themselves to God and the Torah through an oath, right? Just as there was no established mechanism by which to allow outsiders to become insiders, as the author discussed above, there was no established mechanism by which to recognize Gentiles who had come to respect Israel's God. All right. For the idea that Gentiles can become Jews or can join the house of Israel through a change in theology, the Hasmonean period provides the earliest attestation. So remember, 2nd and 1st century BCE. 2nd and 1st century BCE is when that comes. Brother Isaiah, are you back, or is your okay? Because he was sounding like a robot. But
can you hear me better now?
I can hear a little bit better. A little bit better. But I'll let you share. I'll let you share that. Okay, I'm gonna let you share that when you come back. After I'm gonna share some other things. I know because I'm pressed for time. But I'm gonna definitely let my brother Blacktastic share. I'm pressed for time. I got like half an hour. I'm gonna try to press it to 45 minutes later, but I know husband is gonna be like, "Oh my God, I'm gonna try to press it." Okay, so Judeans too were linked together originally by common blood, common language, a common mode of worshiping God, and a common way of life. But this fact was to be an obstacle to the complete enfranchisement of converts. So Judean did not retain a linguistic meaning at all. The verb to Judaize never means to speak Hebrew, and there's some things about Judaize in here. Hopefully I get to it, but Judaize in classical in the Jewish sense meant to act Jewishly, and what it meant to act Jewishly was to take on not only the written Torah but also the oral law as governing oneself. In that the people who established the oral law, they said you had to be circumcised in order to be saved, in order to be a part of the people, in order to get into the kingdom, right? So that's what it meant in the Jewish sense, in the original sense, to Judaize, right? But the Christians later on changed the definition, a definition that would not be known to any Jew at all during this time, right? So the Christians want to come and change the definition and say, hey, to Judaize means to try to make someone follow the law, statutes, and commandments of Moses. It never meant the Christian definition. It always meant pretty much someone who's telling someone, a convert, hey, you have to go through our conversion process. You have to circumcise yourself. You have to go through this mikvah in order to be saved, in order to be seen as the people who are going to get into the kingdom, right? That's what it meant, right? So in the Hasmonean period, common mode of worship and common way of life became much more important in the new definition of Judean or Jew. And so a Gentile could become a Jew through worshiping the God of Jerusalem, or believing firmly in God, and or adopting a Judean way of life, so observing the ancestral laws of the Judeans. It was this Hasmonean redefinition. This is important. It was this Hasmonean redefinition of Judaism that permitted Josephus at the end of the 1st century CE to state that the constitution established by Moses was not only a genos, a nation of birth, but also a choice in the manner of life, right? Because what does Paul say? Paul says, for he is not a real Judeos or Jew who is one outwardly, but he is a Judeos Jew who is one inwardly. If you're trying to keep the law, statutes, and commandments, if you're pursuing those, right? That's what makes you a Jew, right? So the noun Judeos is the name not of an ethnos, but of a choice in the manner of life. For if there be someone not from the nation of the Jews, a Gentile who accepts the ways of the Jews and becomes a proselyte, this person would properly be called a Judeos, right? All right, that's Brother Blacktastic. And I'm going to let you share that in a hot second. So Judeans redefined Judaism or Jewishness so that it too could become a portable culture. And the notion of Judeos was not completely sundered from all connection with the land or people of Judea, but was opened up sufficiently to become like a Greek. You take on the ways. It's a cultural term designating a way of life. So one could be a Macedonian and a Jew, a Syrian and a Jew, a Cappadocian and a Jew, a Russian and a Jew, a Yugoslavian and a Jew, Polish and a Jew, right? If one worshiped the God of the Judeans and or followed the ancestral laws of the Judeans, one became a Jew, right? So the redefinition of Jewish identity came in the Hasmonean period, right? That's the conclusion of that, right? So remember, it's a political term. Politia, you took on the ways of the people of the land, you became a citizen, or you could take on the ways of following or worshiping the deity of the God whose temple was in Jerusalem. That's your religious or cultural thing, right? Right? Or you were a Judean by birth if you were birthed in that land, right? Those are the definitions of your Jew, right? All right. Oh, I might have cut out. Okay, so I wanna go through this real quick. Okay, I already explained a little bit what a Judaize was since I'm pressed for time here because I want to let Blacktastic share his thing here. I want to share this first so I get everything out. And I apologize, Blacktastic. And anyone who wants to come into this this conversation while I have time before I go get my Wakanda on, you know what I mean? I'll gladly open up and let people in the link. I just push for time here, right? So
you don't have to apologize for anything. You getting out great information. I'm learning as I'm listening.
Oh, for sure. All praise to the Most High. So this is the last thing I wanted to share. This is the climax of what I wanted to share. So what's going on in the land of Israel is that it's legislated by the sect of the Orthodox Jews, which is the Rabbinical Jews, right? The Orthodox Rabbinical Jews. So if you want to make Aliyah or live in the land or return to the land, they'll say you have to convert. And they'll tell people who are already Jews that they have to convert, right? And this is crazy, I know. They'll tell the Limbas, they'll tell the Igbos, they'll tell the Falashas, the Fulani, the Ethiopian, the Yemenite, the Ghanaian. They'll tell all of these Jews that they have to convert. This is the reason why. Because this sect, the Orthodox Rabbinical Jews, they're saying, hey, we're the end-all be-all. We have had influence since the first century as to we're the sect to determine what other sects are, you know, as far as them being Jews. Now, they know there are other sect of Jews, like I said in the beginning, and the author alluded to, and the author stated, hey, different sects of Jews have subcategories within their group that determine their Jewishness, right? But what legislates the land of Israel right now, they say, hey, if you want to come in here going to have to go through our ritual process. So the Fulanis and the Falashas and the Ethiopians and the Limbas, they may have oral, they may have written, they may have archaeological, they may have a way they've done things to solidify people in their community are Jews, which they are Jews, right? But if they come over and say we want to come into the land and live in the land, the Orthodox Rabbinical Jews will say, hey, you need to convert. So this is the documented rabbinic conversion ceremony. This is documented in Tractate Yevamot 47a and b, right? And also in Gerim, Tractate Gerim. This is why I was asking Blacktastic what was he going to share, because I didn't want to share the same things, but I'm going to let him share afterwards if it's different from this, right? So I know I've repeated the same things over and over again. I just want to make clear, and I want to make sure everybody has an understanding of what's going on, right? So it says here, the ceremony that marks the conversion of a Gentile to Judaism is depicted twice in ancient rabbinic literature. First, in the Babylonian Talmud, Tractate Yevamot 47a and b, and later with substantial variations in the post-Talmudic Tractate Gerim 1 and 1. All right? So, I don't know if I can make this bigger. Don't know if I can make this bigger. Okay. Okay. I don't know. Can you guys see that all too well or no, huh? It's smaller and smaller as I try to make it bigger. That's so crazy. Okay. I'll try to read it. But let me see if I can pull it up. Actually, I do have it. I do have it in my computer. Hold on, let me see. Let's see here. There we go. Okay, let's see if I can bring it up. This is Yevamot 47a and b. Lower that. Let's try to make this bigger. I probably got to get a new mouse because this thing is like, I try to expand the pages in a certain amount of time. It's like, nah, Shanti, we're not messing with you today. You know what I mean? So, oh no, close that. Okay. Okay. There you go, because I had it highlighted. This is the last thing I want to share, and then I'll let Blacktastic say what he got to say. So this is Yevamot 47a and b, and Gerim, Tractate Gerim. I could try to pull it up in a fashionable amount of time, but if I just show this, you guys will get the gist of what's being brought out. So Yevamot 47a and b, this is the conversion process here. Our rabbis taught, if at the present time a man desires to become a proselyte, he is to be addressed as follows. What reason have you for desiring to become a proselyte? Do you not know that Israel at the present time are persecuted and oppressed, despised, harassed, and overcome by afflictions? If he replies, I know, and yet am unworthy, he is accepted forthwith and is given instruction in some of the minor and some of the major commandments. He is informed of the sin of the neglect of the commandments of gleanings, the forgotten sheaf, the corner, and the poor man's tithe. He is also told of the punishment for the transgression of the commandments. Furthermore, he is addressed thus: be it known to you that before you came to this condition, if you had eaten sweat or fat that is supposed to be offered on the altar, right, you would not have been punishable with karet or being cut off. right? If you had profaned the Sabbath, you would not have been punishable with stoning. But now you were to eat sweat, you would be punished with karet, being cut off. Were you to profane the Sabbath, you would be punished with stoning, death, right? So this is death. And as he is informed of the punishment for the transgression of the commandments, so is he informed of the reward granted for their fulfillment. He is told, be it known to you that the world to come, the Olam Haba, was made only for the righteous, and that Israel at the present time are unable to bear it. Right? Unable to bear either too much prosperity or too much suffering. Right? He is not, however, to be persuaded or dissuaded too much. If this prospect, right, if he accept it, he is circumcised forthwith. Should any shreds which render the circumcision invalid remain, he is to be circumcised a second time. As soon as he is healed, arrangements are made for his immediate ablution or his mikvah, his dipping in the water, his baptism, right? When two learned men must stand by his side and acquaint him with some of the minor commandments and with some of the major ones. When he comes up after his ablution, he is deemed to be an Israelite in all respects. He is deemed to be a Jew in all respects. In the case of a woman proselyte, women make her sit in the water up to her neck, while two learned men stand outside and give her instruction in some of the minor commandments and some of the major ones. Right? That is the conversion process for the Orthodox Rabbinical Jews who are legislating this right now. So this sect saying they're the end all be all of the legislation of who's determined to be a Jew, especially if you want to come into the land and live there, right? So they're not saying the Limba Jews are not Jews. They're not saying the Igbo Jews are not Jews. They're just saying they're not Jews according to their sect. So each sect has what they determine as far as their customs, their traditions, and what makes them a Jew, right? So this is what's going on today. This is what's going on current. So, I just wanted to share that, but shalom Devion, shalom, and shalom Yaquaba, shalom Yaquaba. I'm just trying to get to everyone who talks about this. I know everybody has their opinion, but I'm talking about what information that really matters here. What matters, you know what I mean? Because we can disagree with stuff all day, no problem. We can disagree, but this is the information that matters here. And according to the information that matters, it's time to start moving accordingly with how we get educated. You know what I mean? We need to move accordingly. We need to act accordingly. We need to understand some things. You know what I'm saying? So that we get in less trouble. So Blacktastic. Go ahead and share what you were going to share, my brother.
All right. I thought this was pretty interesting. And when you were talking, it took me back to this right here. This is a track. This is Pasakum or Passover.
Pesakim.
Can you see it? Yeah, Pesakim. Yeah. See, that's why I always got to have you on deck so you can pronounce this stuff. You know, I'm a little ghetto, so I'm a little ghetto in country at the same time. So my pronunciation always comes across.
Right.
You know, but one of the things earlier that was being alluded to was, and also to address a comment I see about us being a nation and not a religion. And this is what I'm talking about when people jump in at the tail end here from the beginning. And another thing is we make these declarative statements without understanding sometimes what we're talking about. So we become victims again to our own ignorance. Israel, from its inception, was an ethno-religious state or nation. That means that the religion is inseparable from the lifestyle or the culture. And that, as I mentioned earlier, Dr. Shlomo Sayed made it very clear that a secular Jew is a rather new invention, because in the historical classic definition of what a Jew is, You're not a Jew separate from the religion. Period. That's relatively new, where we have secular Jews who are people raised in the culture. You know, their parents or grandparents or different people may have been religious, but we have atheist Jews now. We have agnostic Jews. We have people, you know, who again are raised in the culture, but have no true conversion experience, whereas the faith is concerned. And this is what made Israel unique as a theocratic government. And so from ancient times till now, and we see it in the Talmudic writings, which ironically, a lot of what you read in Talmud seems to line up with what a lot of the apostles taught in the New Testament. But here's what it says, and I thought this was interesting about the whole conversion thing, because when we understand how the rabbis before us and how the nation thought, it should help take us out of this racial ideology. And so here's what it says here. Eleazar said again, the Holy One, blessed be he, sent the children of Israel into exile among the heathens only for the purpose of acquiring more converts. As it is written, and he goes to Hosea chapter 2, verse 25, and I will sow her for me in the land, and as a matter of course, sowing is done in order to reap a harvest. Our Yohanan infers it from the next passage. I will have mercy upon her that had not obtained mercy, refers to the heathens who were not yet converted, and upon whom mercy will be had by scattering among them the Israelites as fruitful seed. Now, here's what's interesting about this. They look at scattering of Israel, even though we know that Israel was punished for its idolatry and rebellion, not only for breaking the first covenant, but for rejecting the offer of the second covenant through Christ, when they told Pilate, let his blood be upon us, upon our children's children. But the elders said that the wisdom of the Most High in this was that he scattered a people amongst the nations who had true knowledge of him, so that they could do what? Teach the nations and convert them to the ways of Yah. You see what I'm saying? And so what we have done, though, in particular in the West, is that we have made the scattering, you know, and a captivity of sorts, to the point that we only focus on the enslavement and the injustice that's done to us, and not on the mission that we're supposed to be conducting as Israel. And so we made the misery of our situation, which we brought on ourselves, more important than the mission that we're supposed to be accomplishing. All these things we talk about, oh, we awaken now to who we are, and I'm in the truth now. The truth isn't really about who you are. The truth is about who Yah is and who you are in him. If it's just about you, then it's not the truth at all. It's a lie. And you can't convert nobody to being you. You got to convert them to following him. And so this is something that we have missed on a lot. And it's something that we really, really, really need to get back to in terms of our focus, because the captivities that we've been through, and there's been several, the scattering, these are all tests for people who failed in the faith to now get back into right standing. And when we keep focusing on revenge rather than our own repentance, we fell in the test, because it's not restoring us, it's exposing us for the reason why we went into captivity in the first place, because we're repeating the mistakes of the past with the same bad attitudes. And so if we haven't learned from what we saw others before us go through, then we're going to end up in a worse position in the days ahead or things to come when the judgment comes. And so we have to, again, look at the scriptures from Yah's point of view. And it's funny to me because somebody I agree with is now disagreeing, but this is the very thing they said. We got to look at it from Yahweh's point of view and not from our own. Our perspective on things doesn't matter if it's not his perspective on things. And so while we're where we're at, it's still supposed to be about our Father's business. Go ahead, Brother B.A.
Well, you see, Elder, the truth is that we the children of Israel, Elder. And we got to cut back these laws, statutes, and commandments, Elder. And I hear what you're saying, Elder. But at the same time, I'm just playing. You know what it is, Elder. You know I rock with you 100%. It's good.
Yeah, and then the other thing, I get what you said, because again, people focusing on what the Lord gonna do. Like I said, I'm reading the comments. Obedience is not complicated. It's our obstinance that makes it complicated because we don't want to do it because it's inconvenient or uncomfortable. The Most High's first thing is to save people. Vengeance is upon those who don't want to be saved. It's the scripture says he's long suffering and not willing that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance. We focus on things that we have no part in. We focused on him getting vengeance rather than on us getting salvation. We can't enact the vengeance, but that seemed to be the thing that we focus on. And so we out of focus. And if we're not careful, we're going to be out of faith because of the loss of focus. And so the whole thing about who we are only matters if we do what he said. You got being Israel come with a demonstration because the Bible is based on verbs. Action is what defines the noun. What you are is defined by what you do.
And the spirit manifests through action. So I'm going to ask my two elders here on the panel, why was Abraham's name, why was Jacob's name changed to Israel?
Well, it had nothing to do with his ethnicity, I can tell you that.
Exactly. And then, go ahead, sis.
It had to do with his faith. Yeah. God ain't waking us up to being black. If you've been black all these years and you didn't know you was black, you just blind. Ethnicity don't have nothing to do with skin color. He waking you up to faith, to salvation. Our ethno-religious mean the ethnicity and culture is tied to the faith. So the faith is the priority. Go ahead, brother. I'm sorry.
But no, it's okay, Elder, because what stands out to me is that back then, before Israel was cursed, they knew who they were and they still disobeyed. So what difference do it make when it comes back, when the knowledge comes back, that all of a sudden you Israel, now you're going to be willingly obedient? When you knew you was Israel back then, you willingly disobeyed and transgressed the covenant. So what difference do it make now knowing you're Israel, but when you knew you were Israel, you were disobedient from the start? Do you realize that Israel, when they came out of Egypt, they were disobedient from the time they came out? When you read in Exodus, they could have went into the promised land. They could have went the shortcut. But the Most High said, their hearts are far from me. I will take them into this wilderness and try them. They were disobedient from the very start. They knew who they were.
Bring it down, brother. Bring it out.
So with this, and hold on, he said, vengeance is mine. It ain't yours or ours. So what we should be worried about, since we understand we're Israel, maybe we need to learn how to allow the Most High to put punishment on those who deserve punishment. And we're supposed to warn the people. A priest is supposed to warn the people. We're supposed to hope and pray that people don't get caught up in that destruction, that wrath that's coming, instead of wishing it on people.
Mm-hmm. Amen. And you look, yeah. And that's again, the patriarchs were chosen because of faith. That's why they were chosen. That's why Abraham is called the father of the faith, of the faithful. It didn't have nothing to do with his his genotype, his phenotype. It didn't have nothing to do with any of those things. It had to do with his commitment to keep the covenant between him and Yah, and then to teach his offspring. But the offspring didn't keep the covenant. They broke it. The offspring a lot of times is benefiting from the fact that their forefather kept it. But if you continue to walk outside the covenant, you're not going to inherit the blessings of Abraham, regardless whether you his bloodline or not. And that people keep focusing again on the wrong things. You know, the faith is what should be maximized, you know, because that's why Abraham was called the friend of God.
And the thing is too, this faith that it's not about you. You're serving someone. You're serving the Most High God. So it's not about who you are. It's not about, oh, making us less significant. No, it's about the Most High. That's what it's all about. Israel means to have power, to strive, to contend. That's what it means. And the same individuals will say, well, all of Israel ain't Israel. What does that mean? But with that, you know, I don't want to keep going because, you know, I'll leave it at that. I'm done.
Yeah, I want to address something if Shanti allow me. Gina B. Direct said, for clarity, what I'm hearing now is that being ethnically Israel has no bearing on anything. Please clarify. I know it's not everything, but it matters. Yeah, it matters, but it's not. But you shouldn't make what matters the least what matters the most. In other words, it's not the spotlight or the highlight. Coming into the knowledge of who you are ancestral, all right, as far as your ethnic, genetic, bloodline, ethnicity, should make you more conscious and aware of the commitment to the covenant, not the commitment to your skin color or any of these other things. When you understand that being Israel, again, the ethnicity and the faith are one and the same, they're inseparable, it should make you, it should provoke you, as the scriptures say, to love and good works, to be more committed, because you understand that you're part of a legacy and a heritage. All right. And so you want to do everything you should to keep that legacy and heritage according to the word of the Most High. But once you elevate that above the faith, which was the reason why Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and their patriarchs were established, then you've made that thing an idol, because it's not the priority. It's there as a memorandum or reminder. This is who you are, now be who you are. And it's no different from the convert. Once you say, I take on the covenant and come into the faith of Abraham, now this is your new identity. You got to be true to that legacy, that heritage of faith, and you got to walk accordingly. Because I don't care if your DNA come back and say you 100% a descendant of Israel, they can trace all your lineage back through the Bible. If you don't walk according to the word, you're going to be lost just like anybody else that's not. Point blank, plain and simple. Israelites go to hell just like Gentiles. Heaven don't discriminate and hell don't segregate. Everybody gonna spend eternity somewhere. I see the smoky one in the room.
The smoky one is in the room. And I want to say thank you for coming on, Brother Qatar. Ben Qatar. You know, I got about 10 minutes for you, and then I'm gonna have you close out because I gotta go get my Wakanda on. But I wanted to let Zadok, the guy Hop MC, come on in here and give his spiel. You know what I mean? Please contribute, my brother.
Well, what in the traditions of men is going on here? See, you think you're slick. You think you're slick, ma'am. You're going to come on a Sunday afternoon, Sunday morning where you at, where people ain't really paying too much attention. You're just going to put all this information out there and then leave us to answer questions later while you up there putting up your little Wakanda X. You and your husband got Black Panther dashikis y'all wearing to the movie?
Oh, we ain't got no dashiki. We just got regular clothes. We let everybody else do that.
Okay. But no, hey, bless you, sis. Hey, I appreciate you letting me up. Hey, salute to my man, Mr. Eddie Kane-tastic, brother Yeshaya in the building. I see my man BA in the building as well. Salute, young king. All I wanted to say was this. I think that what we have to understand is the being an Israelite, as far as being Jacob's descendant, the only advantage is that because the covenants and the law were given to that nation, you had an opportunity before other nations to be able to hear the word of Yah and possibly develop the heart of faith that would allow you to truly become his servant. I'll give you an example. When Jacob was sent away by his mom to go to her family, there's an interesting, many of you might remember that Jacob had the dream that night. They call it Jacob's ladder. He saw the Elohim going up and down. Jacob woke up from that dream and he prayed to his father's God, who he had not yet adopted as his own. Jacob said, if you feed me, clothe me, and make sure that I come back to see my father, then I will give you 1/10 of all you give me, and you will be my God. You know what that statement means? It's a process to become the child of God. And even though Jacob, father Isaac, had inherited a promise from God, he had to grow in his own relationship. So the only advantage to being a Jew or an Israelite, according to the flesh, because I've seen comments in the chat, the only advantage is because the covenant and the Torah was given to that nation. When you're born in that nation, you have an opportunity to be educated and to make a decision to serve that God. If you don't serve Yah correctly, guess what? You truly are not Israel according to him. You are a flesh and blood relative of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But as John told them, don't use your ethnic kinsmanship as somehow a get out of jail free card. God will take these stones and raise up children of Abraham. John the Baptist from the tribe of Levi said, do not run to me your ethnicity. Bring forth fruits worthy of repentance. Now, when you get into the colloquial term of being a Jew, the synagogue of Satan in the book of Revelation is not some white Ashkenazi from the future that they was talking about back then. That wasn't even a concept. But those who claim, remember in Galatians when Paul said he had to rebuke Peter, he said, Peter, if you being a Jew try to compel the Gentiles to be like Jews, why do you act like a Gentile and being disobedient to the gospel? What did he mean by that? How could you compel the Gentiles to become like Jews? By having them adopt the customs and the practices of the nation. And that nation was no longer just flesh and blood Israelites, but people of various ethnicities. You know, by that time, you had people from other ethnic groups who, as far as they know, once you 5 generations down the line, you got, what do you got? You got, let's say from the time of the Persian Empire during the time of Esther, when you get what is it you got? You got the book of Esther, chapter 8, when it says many people of the land became Jews. How did they become Jews? They simply converted to the religion of the Judeans of the captivity. So by the time you get to Christ's day, you got people from other ethnic backgrounds who for 2 or 3 centuries have been considered Jews. So in the land, you had people who were considered Jews who were not Israelite by blood, but they were Jew by religion. This is why Paul was called a Jew, but he's a Benjamite. That's why John the Baptist would be called a Jew, but he's a Levite. That's why the mother Anna, who seen Christ before she passed away from the tribe of Asher, would have been called a Jew, but she's an Asherite. So what I'm saying to you all is our sister is bringing inarguable information to show you that when you say who is the true Jew, you better off saying anyone could truly be a Jew, but everyone may not be an Israelite by blood. But now I'm going to end here. Some of us who might think We're Israelites by blood. Some of you might be damn Gibeonites, man. Some of you might be Edomites, man.
Oh, don't say that.
BA, I had to tell the truth. The TROOF, the truth. You know why? Because when them invaders came in the land, they didn't separate the Gibeonites by phenotype from the children of Israel. From the time of Joshua, you had a whole Canaanite tribe that had become, generation after generation, they were the personal servants of the Levites. Even to the time when Saul tried to genocide him, and when David took over the kingdom, there was a famine in the beginning of his reign. And when he went to Yah, he said, why you harming us like this, Elohim? He said, because of what Saul did to the Gibeonites. And when David went to the Gibeonites and said, hey, how do we make this right? They said, man, we don't want no war with our brothers in Israel. We just want to take it out on the man who tried to harm us. And David gave them Saul's grandsons, except Jonathan. Except Mephibosheth, who was Jonathan's son. And the Gibeonites in the land of Israel, who have at that time been with Israel for half a millennium, 500 years that far, they hung Saul's sons up. And then the Most High was pleased and ended the famine in the land. So how you know you ain't a Gibeonite? Because they were Canaanites, and they more than likely were a people of color. But as time go on, how do the Gibeonites live when they are the personal servants of the tribe of Levi? They live like Israelites. So if you came in the land, you wouldn't have been able to tell the difference, because they dressed, talked, served, and worshiped just like the native Israelites. So what I'm telling you all is that what the Most High has done with this nation is he showed you that in the spirit, God is going to adopt men who will, by the heart, come into relationship with him. Israelite don't mean you serve God. Israelite mean you were just given the first opportunity to do so. I digress.
Ah, man, the elder has spoken.
Smoke it! Smoke it!
Yeah, wow.
Man, the elder has spoken, man. How do you follow up with that? Man, that's a dagger. That's it. That's a kill shot, man. Kill shot.
Well, I appreciate it. I came, hey, this was a good presentation, sis. I really was edified by it. You introduced me to a new source or two that I wasn't familiar with, so I appreciate it. And y'all willing, those who get to see this on those who hear, I know they edified, but I hope that the replay warriors really are edified when they get a chance to check this out.
Hey, yo, Zadok, I've shared this book, The Beginnings of Jewishness, on a place that's called Clubhouse, and they disregard. I've shared this information over a year, and they just clearly disregard this stuff. I've been sharing it for real, and they just want to clearly ignore it.
I mean, well, they have to, because it's not a community that's heavy into context or factual, provable history. It's a feeling. It's the Ruach told me. So, as long as the Ruach told them, they don't give a damn what somebody wrote in no book, even if it's the Bible. But let me stop though.
Yeah, listen.
Like my father said, once somebody tell you God told me, that's the end of the conversation. Stop talking. Because you can't reason with them and tell them nothing else.
Right. You're right. I thank you. All praise to the Most High that you were edified by me bringing out this information. Please share this. Please distribute this out. Yeah, we always open up to factual information. That's going to corroborate what we've been talking about. We believe in. So thank you, Brother Blacktastic. Thank you, Brother BA. Thank you, Zadok, the God Hopping C, for joining in. I do got to hop out of here. 916 Shanti Doc on the Facebook, 916 Shan on the YouTube. I was also on Debate Talk for You. Thank you for each and every last one of you here that have joined in, that participated, that contributed something even to the chat. But I hope that we can get better and do better and be better as people. Continue to spread love, compassion, grace, mercy, and long suffering. You know what I mean? We are to re-examine what it means to be followers of the Most High Yod Hey Wahe, especially through His Son Yeshua HaKohen HaMalek HaMashiach. Right. So I want to close out with the priestly Aaronic blessing. All right. This is Numbers chapter 6, verses 24 to 26. Yavarechacha Yahweh v'rishmaraka. Ya'er Yahweh panav elecha v'chuneka. Yisa Yahweh panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May Yahweh bless you and keep you. May Yahweh make His face shine on you and show you favor. May Yahweh lift up His face towards you. That means accept you. And may Yahweh grant you with shalom, peace, wellness, wholeness. Thank y'all again. Please like, subscribe, and share. We out. Shalom uvracha. Wahavri.